All right, so we got the exhaust manifolds out of the way. The one knock sensor disconnected down there. Same way on this side over here, we got the knock sensor. So we've got two bell housing bolts, one bracket bolt that attaches to the, or nut that attaches the bracket to the one bell housing bolt. We'll get the harness out of the way. But before we get that done, we got a couple of ground straps, one back here on the back corner of the head and two over here. We got the big ground strap here. So we're gonna get the high pressure fuel pump out. We'll get the lines disconnected here, and then we'll get all the harnesses out of the way. Then I will go ahead and start pulling the direct injection injectors out. So there is a couple of tools needed for that, but we'll get into that when we get closer to that time. We got one bracket down here that holds the engine oil cooler brackets in place. We'll get that disconnected so that way we can get that out of the way. I'm gonna put you in time lapse, and here we go. Okay, so this is the difficult part of this engine swap. They're direct injection. These injectors are basically pressed into place by Teflon seals, and they are tight. They are not easily removed. So keep that in mind when taking these things out. They do make a special tool that gets underneath of the injectors, so it allows it to lift out. So basically a press that reverses it out. You don't have to have it. It does make life a lot easier. What you do need is a good adjustable pry bar. This one is fully adjustable. And you need a couple other pry bars just to keep leverage, so that way everything stays in alignment. Now you got to be real careful not to bend these high pressure fuel rails. You bend them, you replace them, no questions about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and slowly do this. I'm not gonna put this one in time lapse. Here's the process. And what I do, just to make sure everything stays in alignment, and I don't force anything to bend, is I get everything loose, then I just kind of rethread it to make sure everything stays in place. That way it can't twist and maneuver out of the way. This is just what I do. So we're going to take our pry bar, get underneath the fuel rail right by the injector, and slowly nudge it up a little one. Just a little bit at a time. Slowly work each and every one. until you get it loose. And that's where the second bar comes into place, is to kind of help keep it somewhat in line. And once you get far enough where you got good wiggle room, go ahead and loosen the bolts. And this is a really time-consuming process. Without the proper tool, it does make it quite difficult. Just make sure you don't pinch the wires underneath. And usually once you get one, they pretty well follow, as long as you are careful. That one's real tight in there. Just kind of work it until, yeah, that one right there is fighting a little bit. Just trying to get that Teflon, and it does not seem to want to go. There she goes. There's the injectors. So we will clean these things up. You see that Teflon right there just kind of pretty much came apart there. That's all that aluminum corrosion that builds up. And you can see down in there, it's pretty nasty down in there. So we'll clean these injectors, and I'm gonna get this other side off. But I want to show you that really builds up down in there, so it can be quite difficult. Alright, so I've got one bolt back here, one bell housing bolt. All the others are out. I already took this back one out with the bracket. So I've got one bolt there, 3 bolts down here to hold the motor mount in place. Same way on this side. I'm going to go ahead and unbolt those, just because the engine's not going anywhere because of the frame. And I'm going to go and get this bracket right here off, which holds the heater hose in place. We'll get that out of the way, and then we'll get the engine hoist tool in here and get it set up. Alright, so we got the engine in place, got the engine mount locked in. I got the two top bell housing bolts back there in the back on. I got the two bracket nuts tightened up back there. Also went ahead and did put the fuel pump back in it. It's still the original with a new gasket. Tightened it down and put the fuel line back in place. So we're gonna go ahead and actually lift this thing back up, get everything from the bottom, the new torque converter bolts, the starter, all the lower brackets, the connectors, all that's gonna get done. Get all that from the bottom. The oil cooler hose is gonna get hooked back up. So everything from the bottom, that way I can focus on getting the injectors basically redone, cleaning them up, getting them prepped to ready to go back in. But I want to go ahead and get the bottom end done, that way I'm don't have to get back up underneath there. So we're gonna go ahead and get that. So I wanted to go ahead and let you guys know where we stand right now. We got the engine in, the bell housing bolts, the 3 grounds. You got 1 ground right here, 1 ground right here, and your main strap ground back here on the back. We got those in, so that way I don't have to worry about it. Once I get the transmission dipstick back in place, the harness and everything will fall into place. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and get that done before I lifted up and got everything from underneath. So now we're gonna lift it back up, go from underneath, and get all that done. I've got the tips cleaned up and got all that nice and clean, wiped down. So there's the tool. Goes to the second notch, to the second Teflon seal. So we're gonna kind of work this up. Okay, take the other tool, which is a pusher. And we are slowly going to work it up. And now just take your fingers and kind of work it around, keeping pressure on it so it kind of shrinks a little bit. So when you put the crimping tool in, basically what it turns out, it kind of helps it seat into place. You're kind of working around the heat from your fingertips, kind of helps soften it a little bit to make it compress a little bit easier. So we're just going to kind of slowly work this around. Now we're going to nice and easy. You see it does that. So we're going to kind of push it down, try and shrink it a little bit more. Okay. Alright, she's on. Yeah, see it got a little high. Alright, then we're going to take the second one. It's the smaller size. Same part number. This one just ends in a 1. Or I'm sorry, a 2. So we're just going to stretch that up over that piece there. And sometimes you can do it by hand, just like such. Kind of work it around. Okay, take our tool, nice and easy, take a little bit of pressure, see it sliding up. Now this is not the final seating on these, because the cylinder head is going to do the final with the Teflon. See, it got down a little bit, so we're just going to kind of work that back down. All right, and that is it. So the rest of the kit, this is off of a 4-cylinder GM, and we've already rebuilt these. So you got your O-ring here. That's what that other piece is. You got a spacer, which is that one there. And this one does have a cap on it to help hold it in place, to give it that extra seal. We're not going to replace this portion here on this truck. For one, I didn't have to take any of that, those clips off. So, and those clips are brutal to mess with. So what we're going to do is leave it like it is. Obviously this is for a 4-cylinder, you can tell by the bolts. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to do it, you can take them off individually after they come out, but only after. Those little white caps, they actually go on the bottom of the injector, between the injector and the head. So I'll get you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and set this in place here. So right now I'm going to kind of gently wiggle these in, get this these bolts kind of started in here, and let the bolts kind of do the work. I am going to kind of wiggle them and kind of get them kind of pushed into place as I'm tightening these bolts. So they are going to be a little tight, so we're going to start right here. Just a little bit of tightening. We're going to go to this one here, do the same thing. Sorry for the motion on the camera. Alright, we're going to go to the rear, get that seated, go to the front, go back here. Again, sorry for the camera. And basically what we're doing is letting the bolts do all the work, tightening this thing in place. And that is it. We'll torque them into place, and that's it. Alright, so we're just going to keep kind of working this down a little bit at a time, all the way around. Because you don't want to tighten one all the way down, then you run the risk of messing up those Teflon seals. So we're just going to kind of snug everything in place. Alright, so now I can no longer turn that in this location. So I'm going to look down, make sure they're properly seated, and I'm just going to go ahead and get a little bit more on it. Don't want to over tighten, just want to make sure they are snugged up. And I will pull the torque spec and find out the exact torque spec. So that's in place, and I did kind of screw up. I went ahead and put this in too early, which is no big deal because we can undo this bolt over here. But that's how I install these. So everybody's a little different. GM says to do it a certain way. This is the way I found worked out best. So just bear that in mind. So we'll go ahead and torque these to spec. I won't get that on camera because I'm going to eat some lunch and get the exact torque specs, and take this off real quick, and that's the process. Alright, so we got the injectors back in, everything's done, torqued down to 18 foot-pounds. Now I did make a mistake when I was looking at the torque specs to put these injectors in. Those little white caps, they actually go on the bottom of the injector, between the injector and the head. So I'll get you a little bit more details on that here in a few minutes, but unfortunately I've already put it back in, so I'll pull some pictures online and post them with the video. So make sure those go back on, otherwise you'll get a lot of debris and build up inside of that injector port. So we got everything tightened down, torqued down. We did put brand new high pressure fittings in. Got the spark plugs tightened down with anti-seize. Got a new O-ring on the oil dipstick, exhaust manifold, serpentine belt, stretch belts, both of them are on. So now we're going to go ahead and put the intake on with new gaskets. Obviously everything is done, new thermostat housing. So we'll go ahead and get the intake on. So here we go.